Estate Agency X, the UK's #1 estate agency podcast discussing the future of estate agency, entrepreneurship and business. Host Mark Burgess and Rob Brady.
Welcome to this episode of Estate Agency X. Today I'm talking to Marc and Shane from Harrison Wood Estate Agents. They started a business together after barely even knowing each other, and years later are now at the stage where they've got 3 offices, nearly 50 members of staff, they've got a mortgage centre, they've got everything that they kind of dreamed of with that business. So we dig into how the fuck that happened, what it is that they learned along the way, and what you can take to help your business. Okay, guys, thanks for coming in. For anyone listening that doesn't know anything about you guys, are you all right just to give us a quick background on yourselves and the company and how you got here?
Yeah, you start. My name's Mark. I've been a state agency now for nearly 20 years. Feels longer sometimes.
Gives it away.
Been to Turkey a couple of times. I started my career at Countrywide, which a lot of us estate agents did, back in 2006, I think it was. So end of 2006, started on a basic salary of £8,000 a year, which was a lot at the time. And yeah, just sort of found myself no real reason of getting into a estate agency other than I needed a job. But then seemed to just love it. And from there, worked my way up to branch manager in 2011. So went through the whole 2008 property crash. And then started my first business, a company called Taylor Milban, in 2012. Was there 5 years and then come away from there. And then met this man, Mr. Harris, and we started Harrison Wood, and the rest is history. His name.
Yeah, so Shane, the other half of Harrison Wood. Started agency in 2009, I think. Yeah, 2009. What is it now? 2025. Yeah, that's a long time ago. So it feels like. So just after the crash. I started at Spice of Heart. I think you were at Spice of Heart as well.
I was there.
It was Spice of Heart. I was there, yeah. Yeah, and then it rebranded to Heart a little bit later, actually merged as one. But I started there as my first job, and I loved it at the time. It was a wonderful company. Obviously, Colchester is where we're based, and head office is in Colchester, so that was amazing to learn from the people there and be so close to the ownership of the company. Had a really special feel about it. I stayed there for 5 or 6 years, I think, before moving on to another corporate. Made my way up to branch manager at the tender age of 24, which was a disaster. I thought I knew everything about management and agency and everything, but I didn't. Took a step back to join another company a few years later when I had my first daughter at the time, needed just a change. And then a few years after that, serendipitously met Mark through our partners and started Harrison Wood.
Wow.
2017. Yeah.
So your partners knew each other?
Yeah, so me and Mark, actually, not a lot of people don't know this. Me and Mark didn't know each other before we set the business up. Well, we did. We had a dinner once.
Yeah.
So my wife and Mark's partner at the time were really good friends. And she said, let's go around Mark's and have a bit of dinner. They've invited us around for a Chinese. And I thought, fuck, so go around and speak estate agency. Lovely. Just what I want to do on my weekend.
Fucking stage.
Yeah. I went round and then line by, how's the market? What else are we going to talk about?
Had a suit on as well.
Yeah. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. And our partners knew each other. So they were chatting away and we were like, yes, I'm valuing to good at the minute. And then, we had one dinner. And then I got a message probably about 3 or 4 months later, I think.
Yeah, about that.
From my wife, Mel. She just said, I've had a message from Mark's partner at the time just saying, Mark's not very happy in his current business, wants out. If there's any jobs in your company where you're at, I know you quite enjoy your job, let him know. And I just thought, well, he's run a business. I'd like to run a business. I'll just ask him if he wants to run a business. And then I text him, I think Facebook messaged you, didn't I, at the time? Hi, Mark, I understand you're not particularly happy, want to try something new. There are jobs at the company, but why don't we look at maybe doing something together? I've met him once, spent one evening with him, and he replied almost immediately like, yeah, all right, let's have a chat. And then he went down my local for a beer. About 3 hours later, we were setting up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's how.
And what year would that have been?
So that's
16.
Yeah, so we opened in 2017.
But you thought.
We were talking about this the other day. We opened May 2017.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the birth of the company. That's the day we opened the doors and stuff like that. But actually, we started first talking about it nearly a year before that. It was summer 2016.
Mm.
So we probably didn't think about it at the time, but we spent so much time working on the business before it actually opened the doors, whereas so many companies, and myself included, when I started Taylor Milburn, I think it was like, okay, well, let's start a company.
Yeah.
And then
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, basically, I think we decided to start a company in November, left in December, opened in January.
Yeah.
And then sort of muddled our way through. Whereas for us, we worked on the business probably for about 8 or 9 months prior to actually opening.
Yeah.
There's a few personal circumstances in that probably pushed us back, but we said, look, we want to make sure it's right, and don't get me wrong, you can prolong things for too long and procrastinate, but we would kind of had a goal of where we wanted to see the company coming to the market and how it came to the market before we said, right, okay, we're here now to do business.
Okay. And so let's fast forward to today. What's the company look like today?
Yeah, so we started with 3 of us, me, Mark and Marcus at the time. So 3 people is now, we checked the group chat the other day because somebody asked me this question, and there's 47 people in the group, across the group. So we've gone from 1 office to 3, we'll stroke 4, because we've got a mortgage company now with another business partner of ours. And it's just gone from strength to strength, really.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So let's dive into this. So, all right, we've just spoken about the fact that you've done some planning around the company.
Mm-hmm.
Once you started the company, what do you think was the first thing that smacked you around the face and made you think, well, that hasn't gone according to plan?
That's day one. That's a great question.
Well, do you remember the night before we were due to open? We were sat in the office,
Yeah.
and we'd just taken the lease on this premises. Well, it took about a month before, just finished the refurb on it. And we were typing up instructions ready to be open the following day. And I think we had about, 10 or 15 instructions to type up.
These were like people that you somehow knew.
Yeah, it was a combination of people.
Yeah, we were door knocking for like 3 months before, and like, we're going to open, like, there's nothing to show you now, but there will be, trust us.
Some people do. Yeah, their faith in you.
Yeah,
you win.
And obviously, we built up reputations in the industry, so we had that to fall back on. And you lived and worked in the same town. Obviously, we were open in the same town that I'd lived in, so we had a network of people. But unbeknown to us, the previous tenant had set the power to go off at midnight. So we're sitting there on our 5th instructor type thing, okay, we're going to be here till 2, 3 in the morning before we're up there at 7 o'clock. And at midnight, the lights just went out. The power went out. We're like, what on earth's going on here? So we were desperately trying to find the fuse board, weren't we?
Yeah.
With the torch, like looking through like the fuse board just to figure out how to get it back on. And I think we managed to figure it out. And I think you ended up typing some instructions from home and I ended up typing some instructions from home. So that was the first almost technical issue we had from, well, it wasn't even day one at the time.
Probably the first moment for me, we were quite lucky, really, in like how everything worked out. This has been the story of my life. I just seem to land on my feet. My friend Robbie calls me a little black cat because I always seem to land on my feet somehow. And we, like, because we had Mark, which was really handy, who had the experience of what didn't work before. Yeah. So there was a lot of like, well, we tried this, that didn't work. We did this before, that didn't work. We could avoid this mistake by not doing this. So we had
the canary down the mine. I'd have up and
exactly, yeah. I'd send him there. I was like, we'll die if we go that way. So let's not go that way. So there was a lot of stuff we avoided, and we were really good at just staying in our own lanes to start with, and not getting under each other's feet. So I would go out and list. Mark would run the office. Marcus, the other guy who was the neg, would do the viewings and any other little bits, and he was really, really good. So we kind of was just head down, getting on with the job. Didn't really lift our heads up probably for a year. Really, just I'll put a house on the market, you keep making sure they sell, and we'll just keep doing that. And the real probably smacked me in the face moment came about 12 months when we were like, oh, right, we've made a little bit of money. And it was like, well, year one. And I was like, oh, yeah, but no, you haven't because of this. And then this needs to be paid. And well, actually now it's tax. And then I'm like, fucking hell. So we haven't made any money.
Yeah.
Like you think you've done all right. And then
everyone got paid except us.
Then no, you haven't. And you go into business thinking, oh, I'll have more time, I'll have more money, I'll have more freedom. And you get to the end of the year, you're like, oh, I've got none of those things. I've actually gone backwards on all of them.
Yeah.
And that was probably, like naively, you probably think, oh, well, I've done it all. I've been an agent. And you've run a bit like we've done it all. It'll be easy. And it's a lot harder than you think.
Well, it probably felt easier, then a lot harder. Do you know what I mean? Because we had that platform, we had obviously the both experienced agents. We had the know-how to get properties on the market, and we had, you know, some advantages to do that. But then it got harder. You know, then it's the point of the business side comes in.
The actual
things of the business side, payroll, PAYE, or
That sort of setup part of a business is always like reasonably fun, isn't it? Because, like, you know, I don't know, you've got your whatever you've got for investment, you've got your plan, is all exciting, and away you go, and going from nothing to anything isn't him. It's like, wow, this is working.
Yeah.
But like you say, then I guess like then the reality kicks in of like, okay, or your partners kick in and go, yeah, the fun bit's over. When are you bringing some money in?
yeah.
So like that, haven't you thought about this soon? Okay, so then, how did you try to navigate that then? Was there anything that you can think back to whereby it was like, right, okay, we've got a business now, we've got listings, we've got stuff on the market, we've even got some staff that we're paying and we're not getting paid. So what has to happen for that to change?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, we probably didn't for a good 3 or 4 years. You know, by the time, because there was a point, I remember having this conversation. We was walking around town, where our office is based in Colchester. There's such as like a little loop that keeps coming back around to the office. So we would just walk sometimes and talk and get out of the office. So we'd walk around and have a couple of loops. And I remember saying one of the days, and it was no fault of her own, wonderful estate agent. We had a branch manager in there who'd been at corporate. She was fantastic as far as like infrastructure, knows the job, can run an office with her eyes closed. Brilliant. And we must have been, 3 or 4 years in at that point. And I remember saying to Mark, something's not right here, because we pay her, and I've looked at her paycheck, and she's taken home almost the equivalent money than what we both have combined. And it's our business.
Yeah.
Like something's going wrong here.
Yeah.
And that was a long time in, probably good 3.5 to 4 years in. And then at that point, we probably thought, something's not quite right. Something here needs to change.
Well, I think that was probably about the time when we always had a vision. And the first conversation we ever had when we had that beer that Shane talked about, the first ever real conversation about starting a business, I remember the conversation of, where do you see it going? You know, and we always talked about growth and expansion. And I think we talked about getting into like a 5-branch operation at some stage. That's kind of where we wanted to go and have that vision. That was probably the difference that I think we had at Harrison Wood than what I had at Taylor Milburn, where I said, it's okay, you're a good estate agent, let's do this thing and hope it works. There was no real alignment as to where the vision was.
Yeah.
And I think from day one, we've always been pretty aligned as to where we want the company to go, you know. And I think from that point, we realized, okay, well, now it's time to open office number 2, because we get excited by growth, and we wanted to focus on the growth of the company. And I think at that point, we realized, well, just having one office, okay, we could be market leader and we can, you know, get better at cross sales and stuff like that. But it was like, okay, well, we need to now spread our wings a bit and start looking at the second office, and then where the third office is going to be, and then when the fourth office is going to be. Because ultimately, we want good people to come in and work in the business, run those offices, and ultimately, they're people that need to be paid well.
Yeah,
you know. So it was a conversation then around, okay, well, something isn't going right, or was it going right? We just weren't doing enough of that.
Yeah, just weren't doing enough. I mean, it's all like a development, you know, like if you get a development of 3 or 4, the first one probably covers the costs. The second one's a little bit of money, and then 3 and 4, they make you where you want to make your profit. So we're doing something right, but we probably need to just do this on a bigger scale.
That's really interesting, I think, for probably a lot of the agents listening to this, because, you know, they might be in that situation. So I just want to go into that a little bit more, because that conversation could have gone another way, couldn't it? You could have gone, yeah, maybe we could do her job, and then like we'd get a bit more money, wouldn't we? So, you know, she is good, but maybe we're just not ready for it. But you guys flipped it to, actually, the second office, we could have some economies of scale here. We wouldn't need another one of her. She could cover it to start with, and perhaps there's some other people that could do a bit of both. And by the time we got to office 3, we'd have even more economies of scale. And so until you get to, you know, obviously, you know, the goal wasn't to get to the point of being the size of something like Countrywide or Spice of Heart, but they've got economies of scale in the sense of like there's one central department dealing with some of these things. So how comes, or maybe you did have the conversation, like, how did you get away from just sort of thinking, yeah, should we just get rid of her because she's earning more than us? How did you go to, no, let's invest more money and see if we could make money that way?
Well, because otherwise you just buy yourself a job, don't you? Like, why else leave? Because we were both, particularly when I was at corporate anyway, you were there a few years before that, but I had a comfortable job, was paid well, I was good at it, got a car paid for, got holiday pay, all that stuff. I was comfortable. I had no reason to leave other than, well, if I'm going to leave, then it needs to be bigger and better than where I am now. And if we get rid of her and take her job, well, then me or him do it, and then I'm back in the same scenario I am, apart from I've got all the stress, got to pay the staff, and I'm no further forward. Like, we can make a sensible living, but I was making a sensible living. So, you know, either invest and you go, you can make a bit more, but trust yourself, or you can buy yourself a job and keep doing what you're doing. I think both are right for the individual if that's what you want, but for us, we just said, well, we don't want that. We want a little bit more than that, a bit more. You know, what did we set out to do at the start? Free time, earn a bit more money, have a better lifestyle. Well, this one office doesn't really give us those things, or maybe one of them, but not all three of them.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to go to scale and sacrificing those short term for the longer term picture.
The other thing with that, I think, for us, so going back to that first conversation, I think starting with the end in mind, right? You know, I think we both wanted to have something where the company was valuable one day. You know, we might decide, okay, one day we want to be able to sell it. And by us going down the road of saying, okay, well, let's get rid of this person, let's go back to me running the branch and you listing or whatever, you're so dependent on the founder that you're worth far less to someone later on down the line. And I think that's something which I've probably always had at the back of my mind, is as we grow, to become less dependent on Shane and I. Because the more it does, the less valuable the company becomes worth.
Yeah.
You know, I think for us, we wanted to have something where we can step back and grow, like I say, spread our wings in the right way with the right people. And I think that you see a lot of companies do that. You know, they get that first smack in the face after they've probably had that initial acceleration of growth.
Yeah,
and you go for that like invincible stage. You think, oh, do you know what? I'll just do what I've done here. I'll do it again. And I'll take this person, I'll take that person on. Then when it doesn't go to plan, I think it's very easy to retreat.
Yeah.
And you go, right, okay, well, let's go back to where we were 18 months ago. Let's get rid of this person, get rid of that person. Then you're back to where you started almost.
Yeah.
And as Shane said, when we started Harrison Wood, we happen to be business owners, but the job we did every day was still being estate agents, you know, and we just happened to have our own name above the door, and we probably did it a bit better because we believed in it a bit more.
So I've got a couple of questions off of that then. First one is, when you started, it seems like, you know, Shane was going out doing this thing, she was managing the office but getting sales tied up. How did you decide who was going to do a bit less of that first, if that makes sense? Like, you know, I can imagine there being there could be a conflict there, couldn't there, where it's like, oh, let's take on a valuer and I'll do some other stuff, and the other person's like, well, hold on a minute, I don't want to do my stuff in. So how did you decide who to recruit first? Is my first question. And before I forget it, my second question was, there must have been people you took on that didn't work out. And like you say, how did you stop yourself just going, oh, fuck this, it was better when it was just, you know, it was just 4 of us instead of 10. Like, how did you stop yourself from reversing? So they're my two questions.
Okay. And can I take it?
After you.
Well, the first question is easy, just because they were the roles we were already doing. So I loved valuing, and I was a valuer in Colchester. Mark was working in Braintree at the time. So it just made sense for me to stay out on the road.
Yeah.
We got to a point where we were too stretched in number, because we actually started with, you know, the business plan. We're like, yeah, we're going to do all of this stuff. And we're a fortunate story where we ripped the business plan up because it was too soft.
Yeah.
You know, actually, we put like 10, 15 instructions on there for the first month. We opened with 22 and we never listed any less than that. So we were already ahead of our target. So we sort of done a pre-plan thinking, well, by this time we're going to have too many instructions, then we're going to interview in person, then we're going to... So it just accelerated all of that. So we were kind of already, because we had that mini plan, we already had a bit of an idea on, well, actually, once we've got so many instructions, we are going to need somebody else in the office because somebody else is going to have to keep picking up all the viewing. So it was just whatever period or part of the business got busy,
Yeah.
we would just employ for that part then, because we need somebody in for that part.
But I think we then started bringing in more specialists, because whilst that was, you do the listings and I run the office, there was so much other things we would do.
Yeah.
And then we got so much busy. It was like, okay, well, I can only run a certain part of this part of the business in the office, and you can only just list houses, you know, because you were typing your own instructions for the best part of 9 months. So you were an admin as well as a lister, you know. And very quickly it's like, well, hang on, we're seeing double the amount of hours now. Well, clearly that can't keep happening. So we had to then bring in more specialised roles, i.e. administration, sales progressor, sales negotiator, as opposed to just mucking and doing everything.
But we had loads of instances where things didn't work out, and loads of times where, you know, we went to open another office in a town not too far from where we were. We got 2 people in. One of them actually still works for us now. We thought, this will be great. They know the town. They've basically, me and Mark, they both work there. You've been a lister. You know how to get deals done. Like, you know enough people. You've got a great network. This is obviously going to work. And it was a failure, huge failure.
Why?
Various reasons. It wasn't as simple as, you know, when it's your name above the door, there's an obligation to make it work.
Yeah.
And also, we were the finance is, well, if this doesn't work, then we take your house and then we'll take the money back from that. So we had like a burn your boats type scenario, because we had to make it work. When you're employed, and understandably, it's not as heavy.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, then I'll have a job. Yeah, I'll just go back to my old job. Or if I'm knocking doors at 5 and no one's answered, I'll go home at 6 when we close, and I'll start again tomorrow.
Still getting
Whereas
both.
if it didn't work for us, we're like, well, then we need to keep knocking until it does work. So probably the work ethic was just slightly different. No fault with the guys per se, but it was just
also
Unrealistic
expectations. Yeah.
Well, that would have been our third office.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 of us.
Yeah.
So when we opened our second office, I spent more time in that one, and you stayed in Colchester. So at least we could
50.
Yeah.
But the third one was like,
what do we
do that?
Yeah.
How often do we go there?
Because actually, thinking back, when we opened our second office, who was even running Colchester at the time? I can't even remember, but I don't know if we had a specific, you're the manager. Shane was there. We had a manager in Whittam, but I was going to be there.
Yeah.
So it probably felt like, from the staff's perspective, Shane was the manager of Colchester and I was the manager of Whittam, even though obviously title was said differently.
Yeah.
And we probably got in people's way by doing that as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess that leads me on to my next question then, which is like, how did you relinquish some of that stuff whereby you were doing it? Obviously, like, you know, if you're the owner of a business, like, you're not necessarily got better skills than anybody else, but you've probably got more passion than anybody else. And that'll get you through like most of the jobs that you need to do, certainly if they're client facing. You know, like, I don't know much about our software anymore, but I could have a go in support just because I'd be pretty passionate about it. A person would kind of feel that a conversation, even if I wasn't as helpful maybe as some of that support.
Yeah.
But so as you started to get other people to do the valuing and other people to do the jobs inside the office, and they weren't doing it maybe to the same level that you would have done it, or maybe they just had different techniques. How did you start to get over the idea of not just going around and micromanaging everybody and going, no, I don't do it like that. I do it like this.
I did think, but and me poorly.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I've been a lot of it.
I have.
I think you got, just a bit, arguably. But I think you've got to put your ego away, you know, and let's be honest, us as estate agents, we always feel like, no one would have won that listing other than me.
Yeah.
You know, and you always think, well, I better go and do this val because I'm the best to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that might well be right. But the problem is you stifle other people's growth. So again, we wanted to get to the stage of X amount of offices, whatever it might be. Well, you can't be the lister for every office. You know, you can't negotiate every offer. So you've got to accept that people are going to learn and fail before they understand how to do it. So I think a lot of it came from, okay, well, let's put our ego away and let's, give someone who we think could be as good and potentially better.
It was hard though.
Yeah.
Like, we're really hard. Like,
Yeah.
we can talk it through as if it is, but it was really difficult because it's your
baby. You know?
Yeah, it's your baby. Like, it's your business. It feels like it's particularly your first proper business, which I consider my first proper business. It feels like it's like child.
Yeah.
You know, like you love it so much, you don't want anything to go wrong with it. And as soon as anything does go wrong with it, you think, yep, knew that'd go wrong.
Yeah.
Knew I should have done it.
I'm going back to
Why don't I just do it, you know, but
Really?
over time you learn, you just, as you evolve as a person, I suppose, like we're older now in mid-30s, and you think, well, as you learn more about, well, actually, if you want your business to grow, you do have to find people who are better than you.
Yeah.
Otherwise your business isn't going to grow. Like,
I suppose a lot of it comes back to what you were saying about the vision as well, doesn't it? Because like, you know, if we go back to like, I don't know, your first business where there's no vision, we're just going to jump off the cliff and build the plane on the way down. Like, why would you let someone go and do a listing that you could have potentially won? Like, there's no plan beyond getting the listing.
Yeah.
Whereas like, you know, if you're thinking like, well, we want 5 offices, then clearly from day one, you know, well, you're not going to do all the valuations. So
at some point,
relinquish it
Yeah.
at some point, right?
Well, I think, and also for us, well, going back to running a business, well, because we're estate agents, running an estate agency business, instinct takes over, and your instinct is, okay, one person is off sick, right, I'll step in and do that job. One person goes off on holiday, right, I'll go and do that job. Well, that's fine because we're estate agents, or by trade we're estate agents. But we own a barbershop.
Yeah.
None of us can jump in, dish out skin fades.
unless it was yours, obviously.
Yeah.
I could do that.
But you know, we would just work tirelessly to find the next best barber. You know, so because instinct, we're so used to thinking, oh well, you can do that valuation, or I can tie this offer up. You just pull yourself back into the business, and lo and behold, you're 6 to 12 months down the line, and you realise you haven't got anywhere, and you've actually probably gone backwards because of that.
Yeah.
Because you've got instinct, and you've also got staff. And you know, sometimes staff look at you and you think, well, you could help me, so you should help me. And then you feel guilt almost for thinking, yeah, I actually could. But if I did just jump back in and do the job, then I am just jumping back in and doing the job, and trying to get them to understand that that's not the best resolve for us to move forward is difficult, because there's times where you say, you know, I remember us having loads of conversations. Why are you still editing photos? And you shouldn't be doing. I'm sitting there thinking, fuck, it's gone 6 o'clock and I'm doing someone else's job because they're not here doing it, but because I can do it. Like, you can't do it for everyone forever.
Yeah. It's funny. I remember, I think I might have said it before on the podcast, but I remember when my mind shifted on that, because when I started when I started Iceberg, actually, I was on my own, and then I'd employed people to do things that I'd done. So they were like my hands. And so I'd taken them on and told them how to do it. It wasn't like a estate agency. It wasn't like I was recruiting estate agencies. I was just recruiting just random people and telling them how to do this bit of a job whereby you make a digital magazine. And that's all they knew was what I'd said. And that was how the whole company worked. So whenever anything went beyond what I'd told them, they would also obviously have to go, Mark, what do we do now? And I'd go, none time to explain it to you. I'll just fix it.
Yeah. I'll do it.
And the moment it changed was my wife, Hayley, she came to work for the company, and she'd had brilliant jobs, assistant, global head of legal for like big banks and all that sort of stuff. So this was like, you know, this is my shitty little company. She's coming to work here. And I gave her this project to work on. I can't even remember what it was. And a few weeks later, because I'm disorganized, I just happened to remember that I'd given it to her. And I was like, oh, what happened with that project? She was like, yeah, it's all done. I was like, oh, but you never showed me any of it. She was like, all right. So she got all the stuff out. I was like, here you go. And I looked through it all like a sort of school teacher. I was like, I'm not sure I would have done it like that. Huh? Why don't you fucking do it yourself? And it sort of clicked, and I was like, shit, this is why I end up having to do everything. And from that moment on, literally, I got comfortable with my staff would come to me and go, Mark, how do we do this? I go, I don't know. And before that, I'd felt embarrassed to go, I don't know. Like I was supposed to be like the brain.
Yeah.
And literally everything, even to this day, like people will come and they'll be like, how do we do this? I'll be like, I don't know. You figure it out. I mean, we could chat about it if you want, but like, I've got no idea how to do that. You can figure it out, or I can figure it out, and then I don't need you.
Yeah.
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 So I suppose, like, you know, as you start to, like you say, as you start to release things into the company, like you have to accept that what you said earlier, like some people are here like for a 9-to-5 job, and that's perfectly acceptable, but like they'll never grow beyond that if you don't give them got to give them enough rope to either succeed or hang themselves, I guess, haven't you?
Yeah.
And if you know that you're trying to build a company that is beyond what you can do when you can do all the jobs, then I guess that's an essential part of growing a business, right?
Yeah.
100%.
I think you worry early on, don't you? Because I think finance plays a big part.
Yeah.
You know, you think when you get it right, I suppose same in life as well, isn't it? Like if something goes wrong at home and you've got the money to fix it, you worry less. If something goes wrong at home and you haven't got the money to fix it, you think, I can't afford for that to go wrong. So early days in business, you learn that as you go, because early days you think, let's just not get this wrong, because we don't really have the resources to get it right. Should we get it wrong, and it will put us back so much more. But actually, rarely do things go that wrong where you go, this is unresolvable.
And if they do, you know, there's so many learning curves you take from that.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with Daniel Priestley recently, and he talked about one of his friends. He said he had a business that failed, and right the way up to the point of it failing, it felt like he was walking a tightrope. But then when he fell off the tightrope, he realised it was 6 inches off the floor. And then you realise, actually, this wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And actually all that education of trying, failing, eventually the success comes at the back of that.
I might have been that friend.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, you know, you go all the way to the disaster happens. And you're like, oh, is that it?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of crazy. Okay, so when you now look back at your company, you've got all these staff, you've got these branches. It's you know, it's all on track. You've fulfilled the first vision that you had, and all of that sort of stuff. If looking back, were there a few, or if you had to name a few moments that leapt you forward that you couldn't have known at the time were going to be like that leapt us forward a bit? Like you just, I don't know, took a gamble and did these things. What would you say? Like, well, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 other things looking back where it was like, when we did that, actually, that ended up being quite a big leap forward for us.
I think finding a mentor was a big thing. You know, we were 4-5 years in, I think, and Russell Jervis approached us. Well, probably as you obviously know you from your Spice of Heart days.
And you from your Spice of Heart days.
Yeah.
And said, look, you know, he's obviously now gone off and doing a few various things by himself. One of the things he wanted to do was, you know, effectively coach and mentor small businesses. And I think it would have been very easy for us and people in our situation to go, no, we don't need that. You know, we know it. We know everything, or we know enough, you know. And when you then speak to someone who's been there, done it, and you're like, okay, I don't know as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that probably opened a lot of doors for us. Yeah. Because from Russell, he introduced us to so many different people. Our Land and New Homes director, Paul Copeland, he, again, seems to know every developer between London and Norwich, you know, and the amount of clients that's brought us and just allowed us, I think, or helped us become more of a business. You know, I think that was probably a big moment for us to actually, we just got a soundboard, you know, a sounding board from someone who's been there. And obviously we have each other, of course, and we've got obviously other directors, Tracy, Pranky within the business who can help us there. But this is someone who's been there and done it and, you know, is a lot older and wiser than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell's great. Yeah. I mean, Russell's the reason why I believed in myself in the first instance. I remember when I was running the office, I told you about earlier, when 24, it was a disaster. Like, there's no coating it up. It was a disaster. But I remember, you may remember from like Sparta Height days, you had to go to head office, and then you have your managers meet, and then you produce your budget for the year and go, well, why are you going to do what you're going to do? How many instructions you get? You know, I was really nervous, like early 20s. I think, I've never done this before. Really, really nervous. You meet Russell, Paul, like you sit in the board, you think, oh God, I can present to everybody. And you get there and they sit you in the reception. And, please wait here whilst they come down. I know we wait for a reason. And you go upstairs, you're like, is this what I'm going to do? And then I left and I was like, oh my God, that's fucking terrible. I don't know if they believe it. I don't know if I believe it. Like, that was terrible. And then Russell emailed me that evening just to say, hi Shane, just want to let you know that was the best meeting that we had all day. Really great budget. Look forward to seeing you. I emailed him back and I said, oh, thanks. I appreciate you just saying that. It makes me feel better. I said it to everyone. I appreciate it anyway. You know, that made me forget. And he replied saying, no, I don't do things like that. I said it because I meant it. Best budget of the day.
Awesome.
And I was like, okay, maybe I can do it then. And then from that moment, I was like, I fucking love Russell. So as soon as I found he left, I sent him a message to say, I sent him the screenshot and I sent it to him. I said, this is the reason why I believed in myself in the first place, to go out if there's any chance that we can work together in the future, let me know. And it wasn't like, yeah, let's do it.
That's awesome.
So we did, yeah. So that was a big moment. I think probably one that stands out for me is when we did the billboard.
Yeah.
That sort of ricocheted massive, didn't it? And then sort of just cemented us into like, well, this is who we are. That we're not worried about. So we sat around a table like this and decided on, well, what campaign should we do, and like what message should we put out? We want to do a billboard. We want to get people's attention. Difficulty is when you're busy, sometimes people don't know who you are. So like, let's let everybody know who we are. Found a prime spot, didn't we, right by the station, and everybody goes through it. And we put on that billboard, in quotation marks, nothing gets me more excited than a lovely semi. And then underneath we put, we'll help you find the perfect property. And then everybody saw it, everyone. And then we were like, fuck it, let's just do it. That other agent's like, that's not very professional. You can't say things like that. We all know what that's in your end. And we were like, but that's who we are, you know. And like, if we're not the stiff upper lip, oh no, we can't do that stuff. We're like, we have a bit of fun. We're professional at the same time, and we do it. And it just sort of just said to everybody in the world, here's who we are. Here's what we're about. We'll do the job, we'll do it well, but we'll have fun whilst we're doing it.
And the thing is, everyone loved that, didn't they? Everyone loved this. Like everyone, other than the people who didn't want to,
so much business,
loved it. Yeah, and you know, people who worked for other companies who probably now work for us now saw that. Thought, do you know what? Even little things like I think that's a company I want to be part of.
It's so funny because on the way walking here to the podcast studio, like my son Fraser does the editing for the podcast, and we was walking here, and I was talking to him about something, and I thought to myself, this is going to come up somewhere in the podcast. No, it is. And basically, I was showing him this preview trailer of a podcast that I was on. And I said to him, like, yeah, before I went, Mum had said to me, don't swear on the podcast. And basically the trailer's just me swearing. But yeah. And I just said to him, like, thing is like, something I figured out in business was like, you can't sit in the middle of the road. You just get, no one even notices you. You just get run over. You have to have people that think that you're a bit of a twat in order to have people that actually think, I like this person. Do you know what I mean? And like, it kind of ties in with that story that you're talking about there, right? So one was like having a mentor that had been there and seen it and done it. And you're so right in the sense that it's very easy, isn't it, to look at some courses or books or anything and think, I just can't be bothered with it. I'm past all that. But you just get one little bit of golden nugget out of it, don't you, where you go and you're like, you might not have even meant that the way that I took it, but I just had a brainwave.
Yeah.
And then like being starting to get to the point whereby like you could be who you wanted to be. And so like, this is who we are. These are the type of people we want to work. We don't want to work with people that get offended by a silly joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to work with people that think that's quite funny.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah, they've got a sense of humour. They're people.
Yeah. Whereas the Richard Branson style of marketing,
that's where we got it.
Inspired it. The follow-ups were probably a little bit too inappropriate. We're trying to find those innuendo, but they couldn't go out. Why have as vendors leavers then?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, are they the main two things, or do you think there's anything else whereby you look back now and you think to yourself like, I don't know, like because you've been through opening branches, was there any point whereby the I don't know, that little tip happened whereby that conversation you'd had when you walked around the loop, where you hoped opening more branches was going to tip over into more profit? What was the moment where you went, it's only gone and fucking worked, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there was one. I think
it's been a combination of
just lots of little things that I think accumulated.
Where we probably got to in the last 18 months. I remember saying to you probably about 18 months ago, like, we had 3 offices and it would have been 2023. So the market obviously, wasn't great, obviously on the back of interest rates shooting up and whatnot. And I think I said, I think you felt the same. We just felt like part-time estate agents. We were at that point probably of employees, probably about 25 to 30, so we weren't a big business. We weren't a small business, when we were sort of like questioning what our roles were within the business, right? So it was like, well, okay, well, this person's off, so you've got to cover there. This person's off, so I've got to go cover there. So what we set out 3 months ago that we're going to achieve, well, that's falling flat on its face because we're busy doing the job again, So whereas I think now we try so hard to not get back into those positions of, right, okay, well, this, where we were going to grow the business is going to fall down because you need to list houses, or I need to run this office, or whatever.
Yeah, I'd love to say that it was like strategy and this grand plan just sort of worked out. We had it all written down and then we followed that and it worked. But truthfully, I think it's just we keep putting one foot in front of the other, and because we're moving forward, things just happen. Just,
there's enough money.
Yeah, they just feel like it just happens at the right time. But probably because we're just brave enough to just keep going forward.
Or that lucky superpower thing that you've got. One or the other combination. Life.
It could be that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think looking back, one thing I probably guess we're not afraid of is starting and going in the wrong direction. I think I'd always rather start and realise we're heading in the wrong direction and pivot later than not starting at all.
Yeah.
You know, you can easily just not start that journey and not take a risk and then go, and then fast forward 3 years later, you haven't moved forward at all.
Yeah.
Because it feels, I suppose I'm saying that, but it feels lucky, but it is just the chances that you take work out and they look like luck.
Yeah, and you forget about the ones that didn't work.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
How do you, or maybe you don't, maybe you haven't figured it out yet, but how do you used to decide who gets to decide about certain things in the company? You know, because obviously when you started off, it's like, all right, let's give it a go. Like, I'm going to do the valuing, you're going to do the running of the office, and like, you know, and then obviously you've elevated away from that so that now you're trying to work on the business, but you can't agree on every single thing about how to run a business. How do you get past that?
Oh, we argue every day.
Yeah, we do it. We'll probably have an argument the way on that. Yeah, is there a way past it, or are you still just whoever argues hardest?
Well, I think obviously Shane has his strengths, I have my strengths. So we sort of, when it comes to marketing, that's your bag. You know, when it comes to the operational side of it, we probably have a conversation, and sometimes neither of us are right.
Yeah,
but we probably just get to a point where you go, okay, well, that's your department.
Yeah, because there is no right.
Exactly.
Like you say, it's just someone's who's going to take.
We have to get to the point where you go, okay, well, even if we don't agree, we have to decide on one way we're going to go, and then we'll go in that direction. If it doesn't work, then we'll pivot. There's no blame later, which is the good thing. Like, we'll argue it out until the point we go, okay, well, which, you know, some people go, oh, that's not particularly healthy. I don't mind it. Like, we don't argue and go, oh, I'm never talking to you again.
No.
We'll argue it out and then we'll leave and be like, cheers, mate. Like, see you in the morning.
But it can be a bit frustrating for people, though. Like, you know, I've had it in business whereby you're arguing it out and, like, you're not agreeing forward. Like, you're just arguing it out.
Yeah.
And you're going home. And then you're either continuing the argument the next day, or you're just never talking about it again until, like, so some people could, you know, find that very frustrating, I guess. But it sounds like like, when I met you guys, we moved very quickly from, like, never having met to, like, being clients to, like, going all in on a website, going on the accelerator program. Something has happened there with, I don't know, having a mentor and all of that sort of stuff, where you switched to, like less procrastination.
Yeah.
You say, like, let's do this. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong.
Yeah.
But, like, let's not just procrastinate over, shall we? It seems like a good idea.
We've never really been procrastinators in that sense. If we have an idea and
there's almost been one holding the other
we won't do it, we just will go and do it, you know. And like I said, there's no blame. Like, it's the whole stuff with Iceberg Lifecycle and you guys is I said, but Mark trusted me to be. I felt innately that it felt like, I said, things just seem to somehow magically happen. Watch that podcast. I don't know if you would both watch podcast with Dan a few months before that on Diary of a CEO. Then an email come through and it was like, oh, Dan's at this event. Then because I never, how bad am I my emails? Like, if you went to my emails now, there'd be 1,000 unread emails, and that's not an exaggeration. There would be over 1,000 unread emails. I read that one somehow, that come through and found me, forwarded it on to Mark, said, this would be good. Let's go to that, shall we? Said, yeah, cool. We're free.
Yeah.
Diary happened to be free.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? That's the moment, like, because, like, wherever we do those estate agency X events, weirdly, there's never any estate agents that are local to the event.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Yeah.
Right, so just by being in the room, already you're past the procrastination of, like you say, like, I don't know, it might be a complete waste of time. Yes, we'll go for something to eat.
Yeah.
But let's go.
Yeah.
So that first bit happens, and then, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, and then we were about to walk out. Toby grabbed us, didn't he? He was like, "Oh, Shane, Mark." We turned around. I was like, "How do you know our name?" Like, we didn't introduce ourselves to him, which evidently is the magic of Iceberg. You guys are doing something right there.
What
And then I was like, "Oh,
I
that's
didn't know
good."
about.
He said, "Oh, we're inviting everybody back to talk about life cycle and the system next week. Are you free?" And then, just luckily, we were free. Like most of the days, we have things in our diary, but we were free. We're like, actually, yeah, we are.
Because if you'd have said no, it'd have been, I've been in your diet.
Yeah, exactly. I've got the diary.
Yeah, you bullshit.
Yeah, so we were free, and we said, "Yeah, we'll come back." And then we came back, and yeah, the rest is history. Just went from there. But it just like the stuff like that keeps happening to us, and our instinct has led us to the right place more time than it hasn't. So whenever someone feels good about something, you're like, "Look, I really think we should go down this road."
I
We just go
genuinely
down.
think there's more lessons in that than you're giving yourself credit for, or that maybe the listeners are thinking about. Because like the lesson there is like action. Like, okay, those things all just, they happen to fall in at the right moment, but the action of like, you know what, I might go to that event. Yeah, okay, tickets are what, 100 quid or whatever they might be, like, you know, so I could think to myself, oh no, I'm not going to do that. But you know what, I'm in work enough, I'm going to go to that event.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing, like, oh, this person's having a chat with me, I'm not going to blank on my list to hear what they've got to say about it. The third thing is like, we are free, we could make an excuse, but might as well go. And it's just, it's the, like I say, it's the action, it's the moving forward with like, what else you got to do?
Yeah.
Like, you got the day off.
Mhm.
Why not go and listen? Well, I can't be bothered with it.
Yeah.
And then, guess what? Nothing happens. Go into the office and do a bit of sales progression, or go into the office and tell someone how they should be doing evaluation. And nothing seems to. So I think you're not giving yourselves enough credit for the fact that you say it all just falls into place, but actually it's, you know what? And I put myself in places whereby shit might actually start to fucking happen for me gradually over that period of time from you guys. You know, even the meeting, like you said, oh, should we go for dinner at Mark's house? Oh, I ain't even bothered. Took to an estate. Yeah, fuck it, I might. Okay. And after on, it just rolls from there. Like, the luckiness happens. There'll be many occasions whereby you've gone and done something and nothing came out of it. But it's just the action, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just getting used to saying yes as opposed to no, because there's so many reasons to find a no. And like, as you said, oh, we're busy that day. Oh, we're that busy, you know, and all of a sudden, one or two things can be business life changing.
You meet Russell. He happens to introduce you to a lad in new husband.
Yeah.
Oh, how lucky is that?
Yeah.
It wasn't that lucky. Like, you know, you took the action. You went, yeah, let's see where this goes. Most people are just doing Groundhog Day, aren't they?
And
Awesome. Like, we've been going 46 minutes. So
Okay.
I get it's best I better wrap it up there. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks very much for having us, Mark.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to this Estate Agency X podcast. Can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check, whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed. And then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.